Karen the Warp Spinster here. This is a quilting channel. This is just an idea for today. Welcome to the channel where we cut and sew and see what happens. And just as a quick reminder, I don't say this every time and I probably should. This is a channel about exploring ideas for quilts of all kinds, mostly modern quilts. The explorations don't always end with a quilt or, even a small quilt. We're just exploring ideas. They may become a quilt or they may not. And sometimes they just have to marinate for a while until we make a quilt. And sometimes they never will be a quilt. Anyway, so today I was wanting to do, I'm working on a shawl, and this beaded lace shawl, and this is the Rapunzel shawl. My favorite knitting projects are beaded lace shawls, such as this one. This one's a lovely one. I just finished the second chart of a number of charts that are they consist of just a chart. I don't want to show you the whole chart because that would be not cool. They're just, it's like a grid. And then each box represents a stitch. And the symbol inside the box tells you what stitch you are meant to make for that particular stitch. What, if it's knit, purl, whatever. So I had been thinking about maybe doing a quilt that's inspired by knitting charts. It would actually end up being a knittable knitting chart. But then while I was rummaging around for something else today, I ran across this block, which is from the Tall Houses series that I was doing, and I think I may have a playlist. If I don't, I'll make a playlist and then I will link to it in the discussion. But I was taken by this particular part of it. This is a window, theoretically, a wonky window, and I really liked this outside really bright bold print, and then the black and white stripe because it's me. And then this block inside with some kind of symbol. Now this would not be a symbol that would ordinarily appear in a standard knitting chart. Designer might decide that's going to be a symbol for something, but I just love that concept of the white with the symbol on it, black and white stripe, and then this outside. So I thought, wouldn't that be an interesting way to do this knitting chart quilt, because this could be the box that represents a stitch, something in here that would represent the particular stitch type that you're supposed to do there, knit, purl, slip one, whatever, and then have this bold bright on the outside. So knitting charts usually, this is a fairly standard, shouldn't be a problem to share this, pretty standard symbols list for doing a knitting chart. Now, most charts, if they knitting patterns, if they have charts like this, they also have it written out. So for each row, it might say knit one, purl one, slip one stitch, knit one, pass slip stitch over, etc., etc. I find it much easier to use charts, keep track of where I am better. But you can see that there, a plain box will mean one thing, a little dot in the middle of the box will mean something else, a circle means something else. So I thought this would be interesting. We could do plain boxes, we could do a dot in the middle, we could do circles or rings, and then we've got half square triangles here. So I thought this could be a fun thing to do. So I'm going to go and gather up some fabric and see what we can come up with, kind of a combination of these two things. This is quite possibly going to seem like a fairly choppy video, and it's, you're lucky to be getting anything from me today, if you can call it luck. My brain is very choppy today. Lots going on. I went down to get some black and white stripes because me. And I also found some of the pieces from my knitting and purling series. I don't know where the pearls are, they're somewhere. But this is roughly what a knit stitch looks like. And so I tried various combinations of things, black and whites basically with pops of color. My favorite thing to knit are beaded lace shawls, so I had to put in that's interesting, a bead. Most beads are not like that, but whatever. And another bead and just a plain one. So they're kind of like a pioneer braid, a wonky pioneer braid, I guess. So these may be a part of the quilt that I do. I don't know. They'll probably go into my project bag that contains quilted knitting or something. All right, here is our glossary of symbols. As I said, it's fairly standard in the industry. And we have some stripes. Now, the first one is just a plain square, is either a knit or a purl, depending on whether you're on the right side or wrong side. And then a circle in the middle, a little dot in the middle is knit or purl, depending on whether you're on the right or wrong side. So I'm going to start with that because you know me, you're likely to have in any given piece either a black and white stripe or a circle, and sometimes you get both, and I'm thinking that at some point we're going to be getting both today. Now I have to work from the inside out, of course. Can't do that. Well, I could, but I'd have to applique that in the center. So I am going to start out with, I'm going to always use white in the center and then build with something within that. This actually isn't too bad. You could sort of mistake that for yikes, some kind of cable stitch, but part of a cable stitch. This is for something else entirely. So we will first of all start out with a white shape in the center. It doesn't have to be square, doesn't have to be a rectangle. It would be square in a chart, but just inspiration, just inspiration. So let me get started with that, and then I will do some black and white stripe around it, because first of all we need just some plain blocks, which would be knit or purl depending on right or wrong side. And then I'll do one with a circle in the middle. Here is our first inside of a block, and I need to choose a fabric for an outside piece here. But while I've got the black and white stripes and the white out, I think I will go ahead and do another block, which will probably be a different size. I may size them using the outside ring, shall we say, the outside border. But I'm making this a little larger than the inspiration piece from the Tall Houses block, because if I do decide to combine it with the knit and purl blocks that I did before, those explorations, then they would need to be larger than that inspiration block. So I am making them larger. I'm going to do another one, and then we will do the outside borders and then decide what, if anything, we're putting in those centers. Here is a second block. Orientation at this point doesn't matter. It's probably not going to matter at all, but for now we're going to do it this way. One of them I will probably leave blank because that will be a knit or a purl, depending on, you get the idea. So now for a knit stitch, if we're going across the right side of the fabric, then we need to have a circle or a dot. We can either have one that is going to overlap this border, which I kind of like, or it will sit within the square, which I also like. And I'm almost thinking that you could do a quilt that just has this with some, we'll do the outside frame as well, but have some that have a big circle in the middle, different sizes of circles in the middle, and some that are plain, and just arrange those. In fact, I don't know, but what I might not want to do a quilt that is just this. I don't know. I would put something in between just to make the eye settle in a little bit, but it would probably be just a black or a white, because I would want the focus to be on, you know, circles and the black and white stripe. So that is, I don't know, if I were doing one that is just plain and circles in the middle, I would be inclined to do solids because that's what I like most. But it would also, of course, be perfectly fine and kind of fun to have some large prints in the center as well, or even all polka dots or all stripes or all plaids or whatever. You could do a Bermuda short kind of, oh, that would be fun. Do a Bermuda short quilt. All right, I told you my brain was all over the place. So now let's think about some fabrics to go around the outside. Let me kind of dive into my stash and find some options. Here are some fabrics from that bag that I inherited. At the time, I was not doing prints like this. I was starting to do modern quilts, but not prints like this. I am thinking that given the animals on here, these are probably Tula Pinks. If you know that that is not correct, please let me know. If it's someone else, I want to give correct credit. Now, this is a variety. I think most of these came from the same collection, so they're going to do pretty well together. The orange, I wasn't really sure of. I'm still not really sure of it, but I think it adds a little bit of a punch to things. We've got this I think probably does go with the collection. Well, this one is a squirrel, but so it may be a different, I don't know. Anyway, so these are some possibilities. Now, as I'm looking at these, it's going to be very busy. So if I do these as the outside pieces, then I think that I probably would definitely want to use solid colors in the center, if there's anything there. I could, on the other hand, do solid colors for the outside framing and then do these in the center, which would be less discombobulating to the eyes. And maybe that's what I prefer to do. I would want to break up between these outside frames. If I use this fabric, I would want something in between to rest the eye between these. So let's see what happens. We'll just pretend that these are cut and they're the outside frames. This way I won't have to actually piece them and then find out I don't like it. So here we have these as outside frames. I might want to vary light and dark between them, but in some cases that's just going to be, the eye is going to get frazzled in here. My eye is going to get frazzled in here. It's my 70-year-old eye. So do I want something in between there? I could put in more stripes, which I think just adds to the confusion of the eye, because they're looking for, you know, a square with something in it. So I think it would need to be something like a white stripe or a black stripe. I'm leaning toward white just because I want to have this a lighter look. Let me see if I can find a white strip in my stash here that I don't have to cut. I'll just go with this. Oh, well, it's a curved piece, but what the heck. we'll get the idea. So if this is in between, maybe not that large, but enough to break up that wild, albeit fun, fabric. I think I would be inclined to do something like that. I wonder what black would be like. There's a black piece I can put in the middle here. Oh, I think I might like that better. Oops. I thought I wanted it brighter, but I'm not sure that the black doesn't help the eye more. Because we've got white here already, and the black then helps to tie in these stripes. I do think that I like that. Well, let's, I think I'm going to go get some solids that we can try out as the background and see if we like that better. This is just a lot going on, and I like a lot going on, but it may be more than my eyes. I'm not going to be too fussy about this because we're just looking for the general effect. These are larger pieces than I would use, but so we get an idea. And then, eek, I have lost the print circle. Found it. So then we could do solid color. Let me bring this in a little bit, and that will give us a better illusion of smaller borders around it, at least through the camera. And then you could have these in the center. Then how would we feel about the white or the black in between? Oops, lovely shadow on that, isn't there? It was a very good idea. All right, we're just gonna have to live with it on top so we can get an idea. Yeah, I'm really not liking that very much. How about you? This can go underneath because shadow won't matter on it. It's a different look. To me, it's kind of a, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's it's kind of a blah look. It would be a more, what my brain thinks is a modern quilt, because a modern quilt to me has lots of solids in it. That isn't any tried and true accepted definition of a modern quilt in no way, shape, or form. That's just my eye sees it as more modern if there are lots of solids in it. May not be your view of it at all. All right. Another option, although it's not bad, what if we do it all as, this is why we never get quilts made. Because I'm always doing this. Yeah, but what if we do this? What if we do that? We can make it all solid, which I think is also a good option. I like that. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know what you think. Of course, we aren't finishing a quilt by any stretch of an imagination, so we can change our minds over the week. All right, let's go, though, with the inspiration that we had at the beginning. See what we can do with that. And another option, yet another option, would be to do this as So one side, I would just change the strips. This would act as more like sashing in between and just have random fabric. So I would need something, if I want this orientation, I would need a bigger strip of a wilder fabric down here. Trying to keep the frame in close. Don't look at my lack of manicure. And then say have an orange one up here. So that they would all be different, which would be easier, I think, for the eye to handle than to have a strip here and a strip here and then something in between, or nothing in between, which would be even worse. So let's try doing that. It's not like it's completely unsalvageable if I decide I don't like it that way. It may be too much, but we'll see. I'm going to cut some strips and see. As I'm doing this, when I'm adding these on, I'm leaving plenty here because actually I'm just cutting the width of the fabric strips that the fabric pieces I have over here. I want these outside edges of the print fabric to be square to each other so that I have straight 90-degree angles when I'm putting these pieces together, which is going to add a little bit to the wonkiness in some ways, but it's also going to help the eye to sort of have some kind of grid structure to look at. So I may trim the inside of the outside strips to be wonky, but the outside of the strips I'm going to trim to be straight, have 90-degree angles at the outside edges. So now I'm going to say put this block with that one. So I need to have strips that are going to extend up to the top of these blocks if I want to have that grid. And I think I do. Another option. Have these around every other block and then a solid on the alternating blocks. So let's put, say, a green in here. I know it looks funky because it has folds and whatnot in there, but I think you'll get the effect. Let me zoom it out here. And it may not be the perfect green for this, but I don't like it. You may love it. Let me know. I guess my mind has now fixed on this. So let's go back to putting some edges around this. Would not be the first time in my life that I ripped out seams if I decide I don't like this, but let's see where it goes. I'm liking this better than I thought I would. I don't know how it will be as a large quilt, but maybe it could be broken into sections with something in between. I also want to try different size circles. So this is the orange one we had that would fit entirely in there. Or of course we could have it overlap that border, which I thought I would like, not sure that I do. Then I have one that's a little smaller. That would fit better in there, almost fits in that one. Then I have a teal one. It's even smaller, which is getting closer to what the symbols on the chart really look like. And this one would also fit on that one quite easily. I've got my mind on having a circle in this one. So that's probably where I'm stuck. You may be in a different place. And then a very small one, which would be even closer to what a knitting chart would be. But again, it's just inspiration. I almost think that, and of course I could vary the sizes. They don't have to be the same in each one. I'm almost thinking that one of these two would be better because that leaves more white space here, ties in better with that, but it also gives the eye more space to rest because there's so much going on around them. And it's kind of a pinpoint for the eye to go to that. That may not be the best color for it, but so I'm not sure. I think it's between these two sizes. Let me know what you think. I'm asking a lot about your opinion, but I always like hearing your opinions. And I'm pretty sure that I want some to be just plain white. Remember, we're looking for different symbols. At some point, we'll be doing a triangle here, which is a decrease, either a knit two together or a slip one, knit one, slip stitch over. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit uncertain about that. It might be something that I would have to do once I have it all together and see how it all organizes. I'm kind of curious to see how it works with some of the knit things that I did earlier. They have kind of a little different feel to them, different fabrics, but if we then started, oops, that won't work very well. If we had some of these, then I don't know. You know, maybe one row would be the chart and then one row would be the knit pieces. And we could bring in more of the black and white. I don't know. It's a little hard to tell when these aren't really finished edges, but do something like that. I don't know. Many choices ahead of us. Here's some that's more, kind of a more solid look rather than the wild print. I don't know. I'm thinking those may not be next to each other, but we'll see. And here we have the same colors as in the print, but not quite so wild. Yeah, I like that one better. I don't know that I want solid colors, but I like having these subtle prints with it. And of course, always better if well, not always better. Can be better if there's some matchup on the colors, and there's definitely a nice matchup there. So, options, what can we say, right? All right, let me know what you think about all of this. If you just think I'm bonkers, which, okay. I think we can all accept that I probably am that. But, I don't know, might happen, might not. Have to do some more building, some more playing, and see if we like it well enough to continue it into a quilt. I am liking this. When I started putting all these wild fabrics together, I wasn't sure, but I am liking it better, especially than I thought it would, especially if the circle is smaller. I think I definitely like that better. Although it could be that circle instead. Anyway, that's it for this week. Was nowhere near what I thought I was going to do. Well, it kind of is. I mean, it was the knitting chart. But one of the good things about doing these explorations and then sitting on them, let them ferment or marinate or whatever, is when I start going back through them again, then something will catch my eye and it will spark an idea to incorporate into another exploration that may end up in a quilt. We don't know. I don't know, you don't know. That is it for this week. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it greatly. I appreciate all of you. Next week, I may continue with this and try it with, say, solids around it, or I don't know, something different, because I really like this concept, but I'm not sure my best options at this point. I hope to see you next week. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.